Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning or good afternoon to everyone. So we will continue our subtopics today, which is diversity of fungi and also on the symbiotic relationships of fungi. Okay, so in 1969, R.H. Whittaker, he classified fungi as a separate group from protist plant and animals and prokaryotic organism. So he believed that fungi was the only type of multicellular organisms to be saprotrophic. So, however, now fungi are considered to be the closest multicellular relative of animals. So, both because fungi and animals are placed in the supergroup Opisthoconnta, which also includes certain heterotrophic protists. So, as we've discussed earlier, Zygomycota is still not recognized under the current classification. So, because there's an increased evidence that it was not monophyletic, which is it did not come from the same ancestor. It came from many ancestors. So, what we have now is the Microsporidia, the Chytridiomycota, the zygospore, which is the dotted line, and then we go to glomeromycota and ascomycota and also basidiomycota. So that is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 phylas will be what we are concentrating in these syllables in biology ASB 0204. So just concentrate on these 6 phylas. So they are classified based on mode of reproduction. So they are differentiated according to their life cycle and type of structure they use to produce the spores. So chytrids, they are in the phylum of Chytridiomycota, and zygospore fungi are from the phylum Zygomycota. The AM fungi, which is the glomeromycota, we have the sac fungi, which is the Ascomycota, and lastly is the club fungi, which is in the phylum Basidiomycota. Okay, however, please note that chytrids and also Zygomycota are not monophyletic, which means they contain members that not all came from the common ancestor. So, but we will use these 6 phyla for now. Okay. Okay, so the major phylas in the kingdom fungi. So first we will go with the phylum Chytridiomycota, which is the chytrids. So they have flagellated spores. Okay. So, okay, do you know another fascinating fact that they say that fungi are commonly, more related to animals? Is if you see this, so we animals, humans are we have the sperm, which is similar to this shape here, which is it is flagellated. So that is why we are from the supergroup Opisthoconnta. Okay, so the next phylum we have is the Zygomycota, which is the zygote fungi. They have resistant xyrosporangium at sexual stage. Okay, this is Zygomycota. And then we have Glomeromycota, which is a mycorrhiza fungi. They are arbuscular mycorrhizae. They form with the plants. See, they invade the plants. Okay, so this is Glomeromycota. The next one is Ascomycota, or known as the sac fungi. So why sac fungi is because they have sexual spores or ascospores, we call it. They are born internally in the sac called the asci. So the vast number of asexual spores, conidia, are produced. Okay, so this is sac fungi or the Ascomycota. Next, lastly, is the Basidiomycota, Basidiomycetes, or the club fungi. So they have fruiting body, which are called the basidiocarp, containing many basidias that produces sexual spores known as the basidiospores. Basidiospore. So our mushroom that we usually see, the normal club mushroom, okay, it is in the Basidiomycota. Okay, so the last phylum is Microsporidia. The one in the table just now was five, so this is the sixth one, which is Microsporidia, are parasitic fungi. They are obligate, intracellular, and parasite on insects and vertebrate. Okay, so they lack mitochondria and used to have mitochondria. They are greatly reduced and disappeared. DNA sequencing of Microsporidia's fungi placed them in fungi rather than protists. So this is the photo of the Microsporidian infection in fish. Okay, so they are single cell obligate intracellular animal parasite most often seen in insect but also found in vertebrates such as fish, rabbits and humans. So they are the parasitic fungi. They are called the Microsporidians. Okay, so we go into details on what are chytrids. So chytrids are aquatic fungi. They are in the phylum Chytridiomycota. They are aquatic fungi with unique flagellated zoospores. They are present in aquatic or moist habitat. Okay, so the placement of the flagella is in their spores. So this suggests that it shared the ancestry of fungi and choanoflagellates or the protists. Okay, so they are commonly reproduced by asexual reproduction, which produces zoospores in single cell. They are mostly saprotroph, which is they digest their food. They help to decay and digest dead materials, and some are parasitic organisms. So this is chytrids. Something, if you can remember, it is like the sperm of a human. Okay, so those are chytrids. Okay, so chytrids fungi are usually parasites on amphibian skin. So chytrids play a role in the decay and digestion of dead aquatic organisms, but some are parasites of living plant animals and also protists. So the parasitic chytrids ni, this one here is the Batrachochitrium dendrobatidis. Okay, so this parasitic chytrid has in the last 30 years decimated populations of over 200 species of frogs. Okay, so these frogs results in a staggering loss of amphibian diversity. Okay, the chytrid infects the frog's skin, causing a normally permeable layer to thicken, inhibiting the oxygen and water intake to the frog. So the electrolyte imbalances result in cardiac arrest and also death of the frog. Okay, so this has been a major reason for the decline in the population of frogs around the world. Okay, next we go on into the zygospores of fungi, which produces the zygospores. Zygospores fungi produces zygospores. So there's 1060 species previously was classified in the phylum Zygomycota. So the lineage is still under debate. Okay, so they live off animal and plant remains and are parasite on soil, protists, worms and insects. Okay, so one example we have the kulat roti, which is the Rhizopus stolonifer. Okay, so there's three kinds of specialized hyphae. They have the stolon, which is this part here, stolon, which is horizontal hyphae that exists on the surface of the bread. And then they have the rhizoid at the bottom in the bread. Okay, they grow into the bread, which anchors the mycelium and carry out the digestion. So, and then they have the sporangiospore, which is this part here. Sporangiophore, which is the aerial hyphae that bears the sporangia. Okay, so sporangium is a capsule that produces haploid spores, or known as sporangiospores, during asexual reproduction. So in your lab, I think if I'm not mistaken, there will be photo of the Rhizopus so you will be able to spot the sporangium and the sporangiospores. Okay, so here is the life cycle of a rhizopostolonifer, which is the black bread mold. So if you see here, this is one strain and this is the other strain. So you can see there are two different mating strains. So what happened here is, so there are two mating types of hyphae as well. So the term is plus and the minus. Okay, so they are chemically attracted to one another and they grow towards each other until they touch. Okay, so this is what happened here. So next, it will become the zygote, and then it became the thick wall zygote, and then it will then germinate. So germination is produces sporangium with spores. Okay, so this is the overall the general life cycle of the rhizopostolonifer. But let's go into detail on this. Okay, so there are two mating types of hyphae that grow towards each other, this part, and then they fuse. Like I mentioned earlier, there is a plus type and there is the minus type. Okay, and then cross wall then develop short distance behind the swollen end of the hyphae, forming isolated capsule called the gametangia. Okay, this is the gametangia. Plural, that's a plural. Gametangia. For singular, it is called gametangium. Okay, so the gametangia merge and nuclei fuse to form the zygote. Thick wall develop around the zygote called the zygospore. So now this part here is called the zygospore. Okay, so the zygospores undergo meiosis to produce new haploid sporangiosperms. Okay, sporangiosperms. Okay, so rhizopus life cycle, and if you see here, it has the asexual reproduction and also the sexual reproduction. So this fungi usually reproduce asexually by producing sporangiosperms. Okay, just this part here. Sporangiosperms. So the black tips of the bread mold, which is the rhizopus, are the swollen sporangia packed with black spores. So when the spores land on a suitable substrate, they germinate and produces a new mycelium. Okay, so this is asexual reproduction. So now in sexual reproduction, it can only occur between a plus and a minus strain. So always remember that it needs a plus and a minus strain. So when hyphae from the opposite strain grow close together, swellings grow on both strains and touch each other. Okay, so cross wall then form to produce the gametangia. Okay, so the walls of the gametangia then dissolve and a number of fertilization takes place, producing diploid zygote nuclei. So if you see this part of the life cycle, it is blue. So blue part is diploid. Okay, while all the other orangey arrows are all haploid. Okay, so this part here produces diploid. Diploid. Okay, diploid zygote nuclei. So a zygospore forms around this nuclei, and when conditions are suitable, the zygospore germinates by meiosis. Okay, so a hyphae then grow out of the the zygospore and produces a sporangia at the tip. Okay, so the sporangium then opens and release many haploid spores which grow into new individuals. Okay, so that is the general life cycle of the rhizopus. Okay, so one more time, another slide on the sexual reproduction. Again, fusion, and then formation of zygospore. Okay, and then the zygospore germinates and put out a sporangium with zoospores. Okay, so this all happens in the on and also in the bread. Okay. Okay, so let's go through this again. So these are the sporangiospores, and these are the stolons, and these are the rhizoids or the mycelium part. Okay, so these dark spores are all sporangium. Okay, next we go on to the glomeromycota, which are important symbiotic fungi. So another word for it are arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, or we call it as the AM fungi for short. Okay, so they are relatively small group of fungi, about 230 species, and the name AM stands for the arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. So arbuscule are branching invaginations that the fungus makes when it invades the plant's root. Okay, so mycorrhiza are a mutualistic association of plant and fungi. So AM fungi is the most common fungi to form this symbiotic relationship. So they play a critical role in the ability of plants to absorb nutrients with their roots. So the majority of plants have a mutually beneficial relationship or symbiosis with AM fungi. So this is the importance is to increase the plant's ability to absorb nutrient with their root. Okay, next we go on into ascomycota. So ascomycota produce a fruiting body called the ascocarp. So another name for it is the sac fungi. So they consist of about 64,000 species of fungi that can reproduce asexually or sexually. So the sac fungi play an essential role in recycling by digesting materials that do not easily decompose, such as the cellulose, lignin, and also collagen. Okay, so members of this phylum are ecologically important as some have beneficial relationship with plants, algae, and some animal. Others have parasitic relationship with this organism too, which can cause many disease. It does not have a flagella, so it is complete absence of flagellated cell. Okay, and it can produce asexually and sexually, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so the sac fungi reproduce sexually by producing the asci in fruiting bodies called the ascocarp. Okay, so these are the ascocarps. Okay, so in these ascocarps there are the ascospores. Okay, so this is the distinguished feature of the ascomycete, which is the presence of ascocarp part in the sexual reproduction organ. So this is what I meant by the ascospores earlier. So in the ascocarp, okay, the dikaryotic hyphae terminate, forming the asci. So asci, where meiosis follows nuclear fusion, and then the spore formation takes place, which is the ascospores. So this is the different shapes of ascocarp. They have a cup shape. They also have a sac-like pit shape. So it can be any. It can be many type of shape for ascocarp. So if you see here at the end here, you can see here are the ascospores. Okay, so these are the different types of ascomyces body plants. They have the naked asci, they have the cleistotecium, perithecium, and also apothecium. Okay, this part is not that important. I mean, it's just for your own, for your knowledge. Okay, so you don't really have to remember these types of ascomyces body plant. Um, I'm not sure whether in no, because we're not doing our lab. We're only doing it virtually, so we won't be able to see the slides on the ascospores on the ascocarp. Sorry. Okay, so this is the reproduction of the ascomycota. It can either be asexual or it can be sexual. So asexual is the most common in this fungi. So it's either by cell budding or it becomes airborne as well, produced by conidiospore. Okay. For sexual, we have the ascospore enclosed in a sac-like structure, and it takes place in the fruiting body. So this is the fruiting body. Remember the photo I showed you earlier? Okay, so this is the ascus and the ascospore. So, asexual reproduction in sac fungi, we have, like I said earlier, budding and also on the conidiospore. So, this is the budding, also cute, right? The formation of a new cell. So, last one, we have the basidiomycota, which produces a fruiting body called the basidium. Okay, this is what you usually see, I think. You can see it on the logs, right? You can even see it, I think in Cameroon as well, there's a lot of the planters that are planting mushrooms. You can even find it on the field as well. Okay, so club fungi, they always recognize as mushrooms. So we call that as mushroom, basidiomycetes, okay? So usually they will reproduce sexually and they form club-shaped structure called the basidia. So sexual reproduction involves the formation of basidia on a basidial cup. So asexual by budding, conidiospores, and also fragmentation. So this is their asexual reproduction by budding, conidiospores, and also fragmentation. Okay, so the sexual reproduction in the basidiomycetes involve the formation of basidia on a basidial cup. Okay, so this is the basidia. Okay, this part here. So if you see here, this part, we have the gills, right? And then this is the basidia. See, formation of basidia on a basidial cup. So, club fungi or the basidiomycotans are usually we call that mushrooms, we call it as a toadstool, puffball, shell fungi. So all of these type of mushrooms are all basidiomycetes. Okay, they reproduce sexually, which is haplot hyphae of opposite mating fields, forming a dikaryotic end class and mycelium. And then the dikaryotic mycelium from the fruiting body called the basidiocarps. Okay, basidiomycota, you have to remember it will form the fruiting body called the basidiocarps. So these are examples of some of the club fungi. We have the shelf fungus, we have the paw mushroom, and we have the puffball, we have the bird nest fungi, usually for medicinal value. This is very, very effective. And then we have the stinkhorns. Okay, this photo shows that a mushroom. This is not fake, This is a true photo. Cannot remember where the exact location was, but the fruiting body can grow up to about 4 meter in length. Okay, very huge, massive. Okay, so the fruiting body is this part here, which is dikaryotic, and the basidium is near the gills. Okay, and then these are the mycelium, which is haplot. So this is a fruiting body structure. Basidiomycete again. I would like to show you. These are the gills. So the gills are lined with basidia. Okay. So basidia release the basidiospores. Okay, this is another structure of the basidiomycetes. Again, so this is the cap. This is the button. So this photo actually is very good for your lab report. Nanti you have to draw and then you have the label, so you can take it from here. So these are the gills, the fruiting body. Okay, all of this is the fruiting body, which is called the basidiocarp. So in the gills there is the basidia and the spores. So compacted hyphae form the basidiocarp, commonly called a mushroom. So numerous basidia are born on the gills. Remember, the basidia is on the gills. So each basidium produces 4 basidiospores which are attached to the basidium. So okay, this is the life cycle of a typical mushroom. So what happened first here? Cytoplasmic fusion resulting in dikaryotic mycelium. And then they have the button stage of the mushroom, which is the dikaryotic mycelium. The mycelium then produces the mushroom, which is the basidiocarp. See, now it grows from this big up until this big. So this is the development of the basidiocarp. So the basidia in the gills form on the gills, okay, of the mushroom, which is this part here, portion of the gills. Okay, so these are the dikaryotic phase. So they will enter fuse and then they will go into the diploid stage, which is the 2N. So nuclear fusion results in diploid nucleus. Then they will go through meiosis. So meiosis occurs and basidiospores are produced. So this is the haploid stage, which is the N. Okay, so basidiospores are released and then the germination of spores results in haploid hyphae. Okay, so they still have the plus and the minus strain. Okay. Okay, another one, same thing. Okay, this is the life cycle of the typical mushroom. So they have the mating type, plus and minus. Okay, so this all is all in the haploid stage. So mycelia hyphae, then we go to plasmogamy. Okay, then it will become this is the dikaryotic hyphae stage, N plus N. And then in the gills, okay, basidium, same thing, gills lined with basidium and produces nuclei. And then there's fertilization. Fertilization produces diploid, okay, 2N. And then it will go through meiosis and the same thing happens again. Okay, another slide on the life cycle of the basidiomycetes. It's been repeated a lot of times, so you have to pay attention to it, okay? So spores are produced in club-shaped structures called the basidia, which lines in the gills. Okay, and then within each basidium, 2 haploid nuclei fuse to form a diploid nuclei. And then it will undergo meiosis to produce 4 haploid spores, and one spore can germinate into a haploid hyphae. So the hyphae needs 2 types of differentiate, which is the minus and the plus and the minus. Okay, the hyphae will fuse, and then the hyphae from the hyphae from different mating types fuse, and then the fused hyphae grow and form a fruiting body, which is the mushroom. Okay. Okay, the last slide on the life cycle of a typical mushroom. Okay, so basidia form on gills of mushroom. Okay, this part here. And then there's fertilization. Nuclear fusion results in diploid nucleus. And then it will go through meiosis. Meiosis occurs and basidiospores are produced. So the basidiospores are released. Okay, so basidiospores falls to the ground, and then it germinates. So the spores result in haploid hyphae. Okay, haploid hyphae then um, um, will fuse, which is cytoplasmic fusion, resulting in a dikaryotic mycelium. Okay, so that is the typical life cycle of a mushroom. Okay, so here is the last subtopic, which is the symbiotic relationship of fungi. So, lichens. Have you ever heard of lichens before? So, lichens is not a singular organism. It is more of a symbiotic association between a fungus and a cyanobacteria or a green algae. Okay, so this fungi is in a mutually beneficial symbiotic relationship with the green algae or the cyanobacteria. So the fungi benefit from the carbohydrate produced by the algae or cyanobacteria via photosynthesis. So the body of the lichen consists of many layers, which is the tough upper layer, and then the loosely packed lower layer that shields the photosynthetic cells in the middle layer. Okay, so a special fungal hyphae penetrate and envelop the photosynthetic cells. So algae cells then transfer nutrients directly to the rest of the fungus. Okay, and the last one we have are the mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza means fungus root. So these fungi live in close association with plant roots. Okay, they may live in the external surfaces of the root, which is called the ectomycorrhiza, or the fungal hyphae may invade the root cells. They are called endomycorrhiza. Okay. So hyphae do not penetrate root cells, and then this type here are the hyphae penetrate the root cells. So these are the endomycorrhizal, and this is the ectomycorrhizal. Okay, so this photo shows the arbuscular mycorrhizal symbiosis between a plant and a fungus. Okay, so the presence of the fungus gives the plant a greater absorptive surface for the intake of minerals. And the fungus also benefits from the association by receiving carbohydrate from the plants. Okay, so these are mycorrhizal symbiosis between the plant and the fungus. So, okay, class, we've come to the end of our lecture. So, that is all for topic 12, which is fungi evolution and diversity. So, this fungi topic was supposed to be the last topic that I will be teaching. In terms of the lecture teaching the students, because the last three topics after this, which is plant, animals, and also ecology, supposed to be student-centered learning. So, meaning your friends will teach you instead of me teaching you. However, we still have some slots of classes that we can still do. Before our revision and everything. So, I will do a brief lecture on plants and also animal and also ecology. So, it will be just a brief lecture slides and lecture notes. It won't be as detailed as what you're supposed to be presenting for your SCL. Okay, so till then, okay, bye bye, assalamualaikum, and thank you for attending the lecture. Bye bye.